So what I got here is it's a 2014 Durango 4-wheel drive V6. I've got a little tech tip for you if you're doing hub assemblies. This one's been bad for a little bit, so it had heated up and it's kind of hard to get it out of the hub or out of the knuckle. So if you look what I've got here, had some old scrap bolts, some nuts. First of all, you need to pop your studs out because you're not going to need those anyways with the new hub assembly. So you'll put your bolt back there with a nut in a couple places where you can tighten it, the tip against the knuckle itself, so you give it a hard surface to push against, and tighten your bolt up and it'll push it right out. She's popping out right now. You can see we're making progress. And there you go. She popped right off. Yeah, I put a hole in a dust cover, but no big deal. Got her done. So there's our hole. I got it cleaned up. I'm just gonna patch it real quick with some sheet metal. Got to make sure there's no mismatch on this though, because it bolts up. Actually, no, it does not bolt up to the flange. You can see the flange right there, so it can be a little mismatched and it'll still be all right. It'll keep the dust out of the brakes and everything. No big deal. Got my little patch piece tacked in there. Workbench is a mess. Garage is a mess. Probably hear the welder running over there. Garage is a mess, sue me, whatever. Got her in there, got her clamped down to an old wheel spacer I had, so I don't accidentally weld. This is aluminum wheel spacer. The steel weld will not stick to it, but it won't let the weld fall through, and I don't want it sticking to my metal table here. So I'm gonna get that welded up and ground off. It's like it never happened. So got that one welded up, polished up a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's like I said, it misses that flange. Didn't get any weld on that where the flange bolts up to the hub or the knuckle. This one got almost all the way through with the bolt puller set up. I'm just gonna go ahead and weld that up too. Again, got it clamped to an aluminum wheel spacer I had laying around, so it'll keep that weld from falling through this thin metal. I'm the only one filming right now, so you're not gonna get the actual welding, but I'll get that done, polished up, cleaned up, throw a little spray paint on there, and then we are ready to throw the new hub assembly on. Here we are back on this knuckle. I noticed in these holes there's a little bit of junk in there. You probably want to look at that. Just spray that junk out a little bit. You don't want your bolts to push that into your threads and cause you issues when you're bolting her back up. I also went through here with a little wire wheel. Nothing crazy, just to get rid of all the any loose junk that was in there, so the assembly slides in there nice. Yeah, so we'll see. This is the first video I've ever made. I don't really see anybody watching it, but I know when I'm working on stuff and I look up YouTube videos for advice, I don't like a lot of BS in the beginning. You know, I'm not going to tell you what I had for breakfast or why I'm feeling sore from the day before. I just want to get right in and do it. unless somebody asks, then I'll get into a little more depth. But as far as getting stuff done, that is how I like to do it. So I will try to get this bolted up and get a finished product here. These are the hub assembly bolts. I went over these lightly with a wire wheel just to get all the loose stuff off. Usually I prefer to use a hand wire brush, because really you just want to get the loose stuff off. You don't want to hit this at 10,000 RPMs and take material off your thread. So got the Loctite on there. I'm getting ready to throw this thing back together. There's the new unit. Got her all tightened up. Wasn't too bad. Another tip, always take off one side at a time so that you can go back and refer to the other side if you have any questions about how things go. Like these dust plates, I put them on backwards before and got them all tightened up and had to take it all back apart to switch it around and put it in the right spot. So one side at a time. Another good tip, and tightened this axle nut up with an impact up until it started to get tight, and then do the rest by hand. That way you know, you can feel how tight it's getting and you don't strip the threads out, or you can get these too tight and it ruins a bunch of stuff, and then you're taking it all back apart again with several $100s worth of parts to put back on it. So there you have it. Throwing your rotor back on so you can put your bracket back on. Had a couple extra lug nuts laying around. They just happen to be the right thread size. I got lucky, but go ahead and put a couple thread nuts on your lug studs just to hold that in. Don't even play around with it. Just finger tight, just so it don't move around while you're putting your bracket on. Makes things a lot easier. So typically, you've got this all apart, you might as well throw some pads in there. Unless they're brand new, then you just put them back where they were. But I've already got the reservoir top off. Typically I would usually put the old outside pad on here to clamp against. You don't want that to fall and rip your line off. But got a little scrap piece in there, so both of them press in equally. And go ahead and press away. You're not gonna wanna, you're gonna feel it when it bottoms out. You're not gonna wanna go any further than that and mess up your cylinders or anything like that. So here we go. Got the cylinders pushed in. Got my brake pad lubed up. And with any extra brake lube that you've got on your finger, instead of wiping it on your pants or on your shirt, go ahead and throw that on your caliper floater stud there, because these nuts will float back and forth as your pad wears down, so that you have the same amount of braking ability through the life of the pad. So go ahead and throw a little bit on there on both of those. Got those back in. Don't put any on the threads. You want those to not come loose. If those come loose, you'll have a bad day. Whoever's driving it and whoever you hit will have a bad day. So getting ready to put this together, and we'll have this side whipped. Also, was having trouble finding the right size Allen for these studs. Typically your typical Allen wrench set will only go up to a 10 millimeter. The first forum that I saw when I was looking it up said it's a 11 millimeter. So, but that is false. I don't know if they changed at some point, but on a 2014 Durango, they are a 7/16 Allen. So do not be fooled. 7/16 fits in there snug and is the right size. Got the outside pad lubed up. A lot of times this tab here, guys will break that off because it'll start contacting when you've still got a little bit of life left. I typically do that, but since this is my sister's vehicle, I want her to have an alarm basically when these pads get that low so that I can change them again. She typically a person that just hops in a vehicle and drives it and is not knowledgeable, is not going to check them. If I feel my pedal getting softer, or I check my fluid, the lower your fluid level, the lower your pad material is. So I usually keep an eye on that, so no big deal if I break that off. But like I said, I want her to have an alarm system. It'll squeak when they get low enough to be ready to change. That way I'm not putting rotors on every time that it's time to replace them. Also, do not forget this funky clip on your caliper. That is going to keep everything tight. The best way that I have found to put this on, see if I can do this one-handed. Top and bottom tabs on the outside there, and you press it in and get it in those holes. Got it in those holes. Can't really do this one-handed, but gonna want to grab your screwdriver without letting that flip out, and then you just want to, you fell, then you just want to press that in that hole there. Make sure it clips in. Bam. See how that tip, there's a lip inside that hole that the tip of that spring needs to go into. Just make sure that's seated in there, and you are good to go. I've never done brakes with that clip before, but it's not bad. Not bad at all. Make sure you put your reservoir cap back on before you go in and start pumping brakes. Put your cap back on, close it up. When you first start it, you're gonna wanna pump it a few times until it gets stiff again, because if you hop in, just throw it in reverse or drive, you're not gonna have brakes for a second. And again, you may have a very bad day. And that is it.